It was a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind that blends into all the others when life has settled into a routine. I sat at the kitchen table, nursing my coffee, scrolling through emails on my phone. The familiar hum of the refrigerator filled the silence, punctuated by the occasional sound of Anna bustling upstairs, getting ready for work. Nothing out of the ordinary. I had my workday planned out too, meetings, emails, and a client call in the afternoon. Everything was ordinary, calm, and predictable. Then my phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen, expecting another work email, maybe a reminder from the app about something I'd forgotten. Instead, there was a text from an unfamiliar number. I didn't recognize the digits, no name attached to it. I almost swiped it away, assuming it was one of those random spam messages or a wrong number. But something made me pause. The message preview read, "Your wife is having an affair." A knot of dread coiled in my stomach. My thumb hovered over the screen, hesitant, as if opening it would somehow make it real. I took a slow breath, tapping into the message. The words were simple but hit like a punch to the gut. "Your wife is having an affair, $50,000 will help seat her back. Or don't, and watch her leave you for him." My breath caught in my throat. The words swam in front of my eyes, unreal, like some sick prank. I read it again, hoping I had misunderstood, that maybe I was missing context. But the meaning didn't change. Anna. An affair. I set my phone down on the table, staring blankly at the wall. My coffee suddenly tasted bitter, the warmth of the mug doing nothing to calm the cold that spread through my chest. For a moment, I couldn't think, couldn't move. "Hey, you okay?" Anna's voice floated down from the top of the stairs. I heard her heels click against the hardwood floor as she descended, the familiar rhythm somehow foreign now. I snapped out of my trance, quickly flipping my phone over so the screen faced down. My heart raced as she entered the kitchen, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "normal. I'm fine." Anna smiled at me as she crossed the room, her dark hair still damp from the shower. She looked perfect. Normal. Just like every other day. How could I even entertain the idea that she was cheating on me? This was Anna. My Anna. "Okay, well, I'm heading out early," she said, grabbing her purse off the counter. "I've got that presentation this morning, and Mark wanted to go over a few last-minute things before the meeting." Mark. There it was again. She'd been talking about him a lot lately, ever since he'd started at her company. A new hire, younger than most of her coworkers, ambitious. I'd never thought much of it, until now. "Mark, huh?" I forced a chuckle, trying to act casual. "You guys seem to be spending a lot of time together." Anna looked at me, her brow furrowing slightly, as if sensing something in my tone. "Well, he's part of the team now. We're working on a big project, so yeah, we've been busy." "Why?" I shook my head, forcing a smile. "No reason. Just, I don't want you working too hard." She rolled her eyes playfully. "I'm fine. Besides, I love what I do." I nodded, watching her as she leaned down to kiss me on the cheek. I could smell her perfume, the same soft, floral scent she'd always worn. It should have been comforting, but now, with that message buzzing in the back of my mind, it only made my stomach churn. "See you tonight," she said, giving me one last smile before she headed for the door. "Yeah, see you tonight," I muttered, my voice sounding distant even to my own ears. As the door clicked shut behind her, the silence of the house closed in again, suffocating. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway before I picked up my phone and reread the text. "Your wife is having an affair." I wanted to believe it was a lie, a twisted prank meant to mess with my head. But the way Anna had mentioned Mark, the way she had smiled, seemed so off now. My mind raced, jumping from one memory to another. The late nights at work. The quick, private texts she'd send while we were watching TV. The slight changes in her schedule. Were those the signs? Had I been blind this whole time? I stared at the phone, debating my next move. My first instinct was to call Anna, to confront her right then and there. But I didn't. Something held me back. I needed to think. I needed more than just a text message from some anonymous number. If I went in guns blazing and it turned out to be nothing, I'd wreck our marriage over nothing. I exhaled slowly, setting the phone down again. What if it's true? What if she's really cheating on me? The thought lodged itself in my brain, festering. If there was even a chance that this was real, I had to know. But how? And what the hell did this person mean by $50,000 to seat her back? Was it some kind of extortion? Blackmail? I had no idea what to make of it. I picked up the phone again, my thumb hesitating over the reply button. After a moment, I typed a simple message. Who are you? Seconds ticked by, stretching into a minute. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the screen, waiting for an answer. But nothing came. I cursed under my breath, tossing the phone onto the table again. I felt sick, like the ground had shifted beneath me and I was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to fall into something I wasn't prepared for. And that's when I realized everything was about to change. The days that followed the text were a haze of anxiety and second-guessing. I tried to push it out of my mind, telling myself that the message was a cruel joke, some sick scam trying to extort money from me. But I couldn't shake it. The words had sunk their teeth into my thoughts, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't dislodge them. Anna was the same as always, or at least that's what I wanted to believe. Her morning routine stayed the same. She'd get up early, spend too long in the shower, and leave for work with her bag slung over her shoulder, giving me a quick kiss on her way out the door. The way she moved, the way she smiled, the way she casually mentioned work, none of it had changed, but something inside me had. I'd started watching her, studying her, looking for anything that might give away the truth. The things that once seemed like normal parts of her day now carried a weight I couldn't ignore. Like the way her phone would buzz while we were sitting on the couch, watching TV. She'd glance down at the screen, smile, and quickly type a response before setting it aside. Who's that? I asked one evening, my voice carefully neutral. Anna glanced over at me, barely missing a beat. Just work stuff, she said, her tone casual, almost dismissive. I nodded, pretending to be uninterested. Mark again. Her fingers paused for a second before she answered, yeah, Mark and I are going over some ideas for tomorrow's meeting. He's really ambitious, wants everything perfect. She smiled when she said it, and I felt my stomach twist. I'd heard that name too many times now. Before the text, it hadn't bothered me, he was just another colleague in her office. But now, every mention of him felt like a dagger, sinking deeper into the doubt that had taken root in my mind. I watched her closely out of the corner of my eye. She seemed calm, relaxed, as if everything was perfectly normal. But I couldn't tell if it was an act, or if I was just losing my mind. After she went to bed, I stayed up, sitting in the living room in the dark, the light from the TV casting flickering shadows across the walls. My phone sat in my hand, the screen dark, but the message was still burned into my brain. I wanted to believe that this was all some kind of mistake, that the text had been a lie. But what if it wasn't? What if Anna was hiding something from me? I thought about confronting her, demanding answers, showing her the message. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not yet. I needed more than a vague accusation from an anonymous number. I needed proof. The next morning, I left for work as usual, but my mind was still elsewhere. Anna had already left by the time I got downstairs, her half-finished coffee mug sitting on the counter like always. I stared at it for a moment, wondering how she could go about her day so calmly if she was hiding something like this. On my way out the door, my phone buzzed again. I felt a flash of anxiety as I fished it out of my pocket, half expecting another text from that same number. But it was just a work email. I shook my head, cursing myself for getting so paranoid. But as I drove to the office, the thought kept gnawing at me, what if this wasn't paranoia? What if I was right? That evening, Anna came home later than usual. I heard her keys jingling in the lock just as I was finishing up some leftover work in the living room. The door swung open, and she stepped inside, her face flushed from the cool evening air. Hey, sorry I'm late, she said, kicking off her shoes. We had a late meeting. You know how it is. I smiled tightly. Yeah, I know. She moved into the kitchen, dropping her bag onto the counter and pulling her phone out to check it. I watched her carefully, trying not to make it obvious. She didn't look guilty, just tired. Still, my mind wouldn't let it go. Another long day with Mark? I asked, keeping my tone light. She gave a little laugh, nodding. Yeah, he's a perfectionist, and you know how I get sucked into projects. It's exhausting. I murmured, glancing at the clock. It was nearly 8. You guys grabbed dinner or something after the meeting? Anna hesitated for the briefest moment before answering. No, I just grabbed something quick at the office. I didn't think you'd want me to bring anything back this late. It was such a small detail, but something about the way she said it put me on edge. I wanted to believe her, to trust her. But that nagging voice in the back of my mind wouldn't let me. Yeah, of course. I wasn't hungry anyway, I said, forcing a smile. I watched as she moved around the kitchen, setting her phone down on the counter. She didn't glance at it, didn't seem to be hiding anything. But then, as she turned to get a glass of water, the phone buzzed softly. I couldn't help but glance at the screen, my heart skipping a beat. It was a text from Mark. Everything good for tomorrow, just a simple message. Innocent. But my mind twisted it into something darker. I couldn't stop myself from imagining what might lie beneath those words. What else had they been talking about? What hadn't she told me? You seem quiet tonight, Anna said, breaking through my thoughts. I looked up, startled. Do I? Sorry, just tired, I guess. She walked over and sat down across from me, her eyes searching my face. Is everything okay? You've been a little off lately. I swallowed, forcing a smile. Yeah, I'm fine. Work's just been stressful. She reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. Well, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. Her touch felt warm, familiar, but my mind was already in too deep. I didn't know if I could trust her words anymore. I didn't know if I could trust anything. Over the next few days, my suspicion only grew. I found myself paying closer attention to everything Anna did. When she came home late, when she spent too long on her phone, even the way she smiled at me, it all felt like part of some larger puzzle, and I was missing the final piece. One evening, when Anna was in the shower, I couldn't resist anymore. I grabbed her phone from the nightstand, my hands shaking as I unlocked it. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. But I had to know. I scrolled through her messages, looking for anything that would give me a clue. Most of the conversations were harmless, chats with friends, family, colleagues. But then there was Mark. There were no explicit messages, nothing that would have screamed affair to anyone else. But the tone between them felt different. Friendly, sure, but there was something more, a flirtatiousness, a familiarity that felt too close. A message from earlier that week caught my eye. Mark, you looked amazing today. That presentation was fire. Let's celebrate next week. Anna, thanks, you were great too. I'll check my schedule, but I'm definitely up for it. Smiley face. I stared at the screen, the air suddenly thick and suffocating around me. It wasn't proof of anything physical, but it was enough. Enough to make me feel like a fool for trusting her, for letting things get this far without asking questions. The sound of the shower turning off snapped me back to reality. I quickly put the phone back where I found it, my heart racing. I didn't know how much longer I could keep this up. When Anna came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, smiling as she brushed her hair, I forced myself to smile back. But something had changed. I didn't see her the same way anymore. I couldn't. This was no longer about whether or not she was hiding something. It was about how much longer I could stand pretending nothing was wrong. Days turned into a blur of tension and suspicion. I found myself trapped in a constant cycle of watching Anna, observing her every move, dissecting her words, and second-guessing everything she did. The lines between love and distrust blurred, morphing my affection into an uncomfortable need to uncover the truth. The message from the anonymous number replayed in my mind like a broken record. a haunting reminder of the precarious state of our marriage. One Friday evening, I decided to take a different approach. I needed to gather more evidence. I needed something concrete. I started following Anna after work, my heart racing with each mile I drove. The thought of her being unfaithful filled me with an adrenaline that propelled me forward. I wasn't sure how far I would go, but I felt compelled to know. As I parked a few blocks from her office, I felt like a character in a cheap thriller, stalking my wife under the cover of dusk, my pulse pounding in my ears. I tried to calm myself, reminding myself that this could all be a misunderstanding. But as I waited, a sick feeling settled in my stomach. The clock on my dashboard ticked loudly, each second a reminder of how much time had passed. At around 6, Anna finally emerged from the building, looking the same as she always did, with her hair cascading over her shoulders and her work attire neatly pressed. She looked down at her phone, and for a moment, I felt my heart leap. Perhaps she was just texting a coworker. But then, she turned and walked toward a nearby cafe. I followed her at a distance, trying to keep my breathing steady. My thoughts raced. Was this where she met Mark? Was this the big celebration they'd been talking about? As I approached the cafe, I caught a glimpse of her through the window. My heart sank. She was sitting at a small table, her smile wide as she spoke to none other than Mark. He was leaning forward, laughing at something she said, the warmth between them unmistakable. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, the realization washing over me like ice water. I took a deep breath and stepped back, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Was I really witnessing my wife in the arms of another man? Was this the moment everything changed? Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I glanced down, and to my surprise, it was a text from that same anonymous number. I told you she's with him. You still want the truth? I felt a surge of anger, frustration boiling beneath the surface. I quickly typed a reply. Who are you? But before I could send it, I felt a rush of dread as I saw Mark lean closer to Anna, his hand reaching out to touch her arm. I wanted to scream, to shout at them to stop, but I was paralyzed. The laughter, the intimacy, it was everything I had feared and more. They continued talking, and I caught snippets of their conversation that sent my heart plummeting further. God, I can't believe how well you handled that presentation, Mark said, leaning back with a smug smile. Anna laughed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. Thanks. I couldn't have done it without your help. Maybe we should work together more often, Mark suggested, his voice low and flirtatious. I couldn't take it anymore. Anger surged through me, and before I knew it, I was moving. I pushed through the cafe door, my heart pounding, fueled by a mix of rage and heartbreak. Anna! I shouted, my voice cutting through the ambient noise of the cafe. She looked up, surprise washing over her face. Mark turned, his expression shifting to one of concern. Whoa, man, is everything okay? Anna stood, wide-eyed, as if caught in a lie. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. I followed you, I admitted, my chest heaving. I had to see for myself. Mark stood, hands raised slightly, trying to diffuse the tension. Hey, I didn't know you were married, man. We were just catching up. Catching up? I echoed incredulously. Is that what you call it? I turned my gaze back to Anna. You didn't mention you'd be meeting Mark. I didn't think it was a big deal, she exclaimed, her voice rising defensively. We were discussing work. It's not like that. I could feel the anger bubbling up, a cocktail of hurt and betrayal. Not like what? Like you didn't text him all week? Like you didn't keep your phone face down every time I walked into the room? Anna opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. You know what? I don't even want to hear it right now. Let's just sit down and talk about this, she pleaded, her eyes pleading. No. You can explain everything to me later. Right now, I want to know what's going on between you and him. I pointed a finger at Mark, who had remained quiet, gauging the situation. Dude, this is not what it looks like, Mark said, trying to sound reasonable. I promise you, Anna and I were just talking about work stuff. I turned my gaze back to Anna. Is that true? Just work stuff? Yes. I swear, she insisted, her voice shaky. We've been working together on projects. It's been stressful, and I just wanted to relax a little after a long week. Relaxing at a cafe with him. That's how you unwind. I shot back, disbelief dripping from my words. Anna looked down, her shoulders sagging under the weight of my accusations. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd overreact. Overreact? I'm standing here, and you expect me to believe this is nothing? I felt my heart racing, emotions spilling over. You've been texting him, spending time with him, and I'm supposed to think this is all innocent? She took a deep breath, the frustration etched on her face. You're blowing this out of proportion. I love you, and you know that, do I? I challenged, crossing my arms. Because right now, it looks like you're hiding something. The cafe around us felt suffocating. I could see other patrons staring, their eyes flickering between us, curious about the confrontation. I didn't care. I needed answers, and I needed them now. Anna, please, I urged, my voice low. I need to know. Are you having an affair? Her eyes widened, a flicker of shock washing over her face. No. I would never do that. You have to believe me. Mark, sensing the escalating tension, stepped in again. Look, man, this isn't helping. Maybe we all need to take a step back. Stay out of this, I snapped, my gaze locked on Anna. You can't just brush this off. I saw you two together, and I need to know the truth. Anna looked torn, frustration and hurt swirling in her eyes. I'm not cheating on you. I swear. I was just trying to be professional, but her words felt hollow, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to shield something from me, something deeper than just work. The betrayal stung, and I felt the ground beneath me crumble further. Then prove it, I said, my voice trembling with anger and fear. Show me your phone. Let me see your messages. Her eyes widened at my request, and for a brief moment, I thought she might actually hand it over. But then the moment passed, and she shook her head. No. I'm not doing that. I felt a rush of anger mixed with despair. Why not? If there's nothing to hide, then why won't you show me? Because it's personal, she shot back, her voice rising. Personal? I scoffed. You've just put your entire relationship on trial. You don't get to keep things personal now. The tension hung heavy in the air as the truth settled between us like a chasm, widening with every word left unsaid. I could see the conflict in her eyes, and for the first time, I felt the gravity of what was happening. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore, it was about trust, the very foundation of our relationship. Just tell me, I pleaded, my voice softer now. Please. If you love me, just tell me the truth. For a long moment, Anna stared at me, her expression shifting from anger to something softer, something I couldn't quite read. But the silence that followed was deafening. Anna, I whispered, desperation creeping into my tone. I can't, she finally said, her voice breaking. I can't do this right now. With that, she turned away from me, leaving me standing there, heart racing, stomach churning. It was the moment I had feared most, the realization that perhaps I had lost her for good. As Anna walked away, I felt the weight of everything crashing down on me. I had come seeking answers, but all I had found was more confusion and heartbreak. The truth was slipping through my fingers, and I had no idea how to hold on to the love that once felt so secure. The cafe faded into the background as I stood there, torn between the past and an uncertain future. The confrontation had not led to resolution, it had only deepened the rift. And I knew, deep down, that the next steps I took could change everything. The next few days were a fog of anger and confusion. Anna and I were coexisting in silence, our home feeling more like a battleground than the sanctuary it had always been. The tension wrapped around us like a suffocating blanket, and every time I glanced at her, my heart ached with betrayal and despair. I spent every waking moment trying to piece together the fragments of our life, searching for some semblance of the woman I thought I knew. I knew I needed answers, and I needed them fast. That anonymous text had stirred something inside me, a determination to uncover the truth. And as much as it pained me, I had to confront Mark, the man who had become the symbol of my wife's betrayal. I arranged to meet with Jake, the mysterious figure behind the anonymous text. I felt a mixture of fear and excitement, the adrenaline pumping through my veins as I prepared for the confrontation. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stepping into a trap, but I was willing to risk everything to uncover the truth. The meeting was set for a quiet bar on the outskirts of town. I arrived early, the dim lights casting a shadow over the small, wooden tables. My heart raced as I scanned the room, waiting for Jake to show. I had no idea what this man looked like, but I knew he held pieces of the puzzle I desperately needed. When Jake finally walked in, he was nothing like I had expected. He was tall, with an air of confidence that exuded danger. He wore a leather jacket, his dark hair tousled and messy, and a smirk played on his lips as he approached. He seemed far too relaxed for someone who was about to share explosive information. "Nice to meet you," he said, sliding into the booth opposite me. "You look like you've had a rough week." I couldn't muster a smile, my anger boiling just beneath the surface. "Cut the small talk. What do you know about Anna and Mark?" Jake leaned back, his expression casual. "Straight to the point, huh? I like that. Let's just say I've seen some things. Anna and Mark, they're a little too close for comfort, wouldn't you agree?" "Just tell me what you know," I demanded, my voice low. "I'm not playing games." He chuckled, his eyes glinting with mischief. All right. I've got pictures. Texts. The whole 9 yards. But this isn't going to be cheap." I felt a surge of frustration. "How much?" "50 grand, he said matter-of-factly, leaning forward. "I'll give you everything I have, but I want my money up front." "50 grand? Are you out of your mind?" I shot back, incredulous. "What do you think I am, a walking ATM?" He shrugged, his smirk never fading. "I'm just the messenger. You want the truth, you pay for it. Simple as that." I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, desperation, and a hint of vulnerability. "You're trying to extort me. What makes you think I'd give you anything?" "Because deep down, you know you need this. You're drowning in doubt, and I'm your lifeline." He paused, leaning in closer. "Besides, I know you've been following Anna. You want proof that she's cheating. This is your shot." I clenched my jaw, torn between my need for answers and the rage bubbling inside me. "What if I refuse?" "Then you walk away empty-handed," he said, his tone chilling. "You stay in the dark, and who knows what else you'll find out on your own. Maybe it'll be worse than you thought." His words hung in the air, heavy with implications. I wanted to lash out, to tell him to go to hell. But I couldn't ignore the urgency of my situation. If Anna was truly having an affair, I had to know. "Fine," I said, reluctantly. "I'll give you the money. But if this is some kind of scam..." "It's not," Jake interrupted, his eyes narrowing. "Trust me. You'll get what you paid for. I always deliver." As I weighed my options, I felt a mixture of fear and determination surge within me. I had to do this, no matter the cost. I pulled out my phone, preparing to make a transfer. But as I started to enter the details, Jake's demeanor shifted. "Hold on a second," he said, his expression growing serious. "There's something you need to know first." "What?" I asked, my irritation creeping back. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "If you're going to confront Anna, be careful. She's not the only one who has something to lose. Mark's got a reputation, and he doesn't take kindly to being exposed." I narrowed my eyes, not liking the threat implied in his words. "You think I'm scared of him?" Jake shrugged. "I'm just saying, tread lightly. This is a game, and you're not the only player at the table. You might want to think about your next move before you make it." I felt a chill run down my spine. The stakes had never been higher, and the reality of my situation hit me like a freight train. I had to prepare for the fallout, not just for Anna and Mark, but for myself as well. With a heavy heart, I confirmed the transfer. Jake's smirk returned as he pulled out his phone, revealing a series of pictures and messages. I felt my hands tremble as I took in the evidence, the images a stark reminder of the betrayal that threatened to tear my life apart. "This is it," Jake said, sliding the phone across the table. "All the proof you need. Take your time and look through it." As I scrolled through the photos, each one sent a jolt of pain through me. There were images of Anna and Mark together at a bar, laughing, leaning in too close. Texts filled with flirtation and intimacy danced across the screen, each one like a dagger to my heart. "Do you see now?" Jake asked, his voice almost taunting. "You were right to be suspicious." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. "This isn't happening," I whispered to myself, struggling to process the reality in front of me. "You can't hide from the truth," Jake said, leaning back with a satisfied grin. "This is the beginning of the end for you and Anna." I looked up, my eyes meeting Jake's. "What do you get out of this? What's your angle?" "I'm just a guy who knows how to spot a cheating spouse," he replied, shrugging. "And you're not the first desperate husband I've helped. But hey, that's business." I felt the anger bubbling inside me once more. "You're a scumbag, maybe. But I'm a scumbag who knows the truth. Now, what are you going to do with it?" I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words settle in my gut. The truth had been laid bare before me, and I knew I couldn't back down now. I had to confront Anna, had to demand answers. But as I prepared to leave, a new wave of uncertainty washed over me. This wasn't just about Anna anymore, it was about everything we had built together. The betrayal felt like an avalanche, ready to crush everything in its path. "Listen, you should think carefully about how you handle this," Jake warned as I stood to leave. "It could get messy." "Messy is an understatement," I replied, my heart racing. "I don't even know what to do next." Jake smirked, leaning back in his seat. "Just remember, once you know, you can't unknow. Are you ready for the fallout?" As I stepped out of the bar, the cold night air hit me like a slap in the face. I had the evidence, but now I faced a choice. Confront Anna, expose the betrayal, and shatter our lives. Or stay silent and live in this hell of uncertainty. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. The decision weighed heavily on my chest. I could feel the storm brewing, and I knew there was no turning back now. The next move would change everything.